Hello,
Hello,
how are you today?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm very well, thanks. What's your name?
Ah, I'm Harris.
And where
I'm
are
working. Yeah.
you from?
I'm from Japan.
Okay. My name's Matthew, and it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Matthew.
So, why are you studying on Cambly?
Um, I'm studying for IELTS exam. Maybe 2 years later, I will enter the graduate school.
Okay.
So I'm studying English IELTS.
All right. So, is this what you want to do here as a lesson?
Uh, actually, uh, uh, I'm focusing on the IELTS speaking section, and I've just studied for IELTS exam, and I prepared. So I think I'm not the level of providing spontaneous responses. So I've been using sample questions. And I'm here to prepare the questions. Uh, So I want you to ask me the questions I will prepared uh, and evaluate my responses.
Okay.
And provide corrections.
Okay. So, which questions would you like me to ask you?
Ah, I'll text you here. Can you read this?
Yes. Let me just copy these. Okay. I'm just gonna put and paste these questions in. Okay, so the first one is, can you tell me something about your hometown? Then, where do you live now?
Mhm.
Okay, these are good questions. How often do you go out with your family? When was the last time you went out with your friends?
Mm.
Well, do you know your neighbor? Okay. Okay, so just so you know, these all look like part one questions.
Yes, just part
Okay,
one.
so yeah, but just bear in mind that part one topics usually have about 3 or 4 questions that you'll be asked about the same topic. So when you're,
Mhm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with, practicing these kinds of questions. And I think, they do help you to realize what kind of vocabulary you need. But just
Mm.
remember that, it's going to be just answering questions, one question on each topic is not what IELTS is going to do in the real exam. They're going to ask you 3 or 4 questions about one topic. So it's good to, as well as practicing in this kind of way, it's good to also be prepared to answer a few more questions about the topic. So, but let's start with these ones here.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll take some notes in the chat box as we go along, and maybe we'll just give you some feedback after each question. I think that would be a good idea. So what I'm going to do is share my screen now, since we don't need this other lesson here. And you'll be able to see
Sorry.
this. then I can just, I said, I'm going to share my screen with you now
Okay.
so that I can put these questions up.
Uh-huh. Me too.
All right. Let me just make these questions a bit bigger.
Okay, I
You
can
can
see
see
that.
them now, right?
Mhm.
Okay, here we go. That makes it a little bit easier, I think. We can both see them. All right. So, can you tell me something
Okay,
about your hometown, Paris?
my hometown is Osaka Prefecture in Japan, which is vibrant and bustling city, and it's known for its rich culture and the delicious foods. And when it comes to food, it's renowned for its street food, including takoyaki and okonomiyaki. And Osaka is often referred to as the kitchen of Japan. And uh, then Osaka is also a hub for shopping, like a lot of malls and shopping districts, attracting both locals and tourists alike.
Okay, so that's a good answer. It's got a lot of information there. Now, as I mentioned, the examiner is going to want to ask you about 3 or 4 questions about your hometown. So
Okay.
your answers should probably be about
Mm.
half the length of what you just said.
Half,
So,
okay,
in other
it's a little bit
words,
longer.
save
It's enough.
some of that information. If you keep going like that,
Mm.
the examiner is just going to interrupt you because they want to ask you more
Okay.
questions. So if you think about part 1 of the IELTS speaking as being 5 minutes, part 1
Okay.
has 3 topics with 4 questions each. So that's a total of 12 questions for 5 minutes. So
Okay.
about just answer the
So
question
power.
directly, add a little bit of information, and then just keep your answers relatively short. It doesn't it doesn't matter to add more information, but the likelihood is that the examiner will interrupt you, and nobody likes being
Okay.
interrupted,
So
right?
empower.
Now they're not interrupting you because you've done something wrong. They're just
So empower.
Go ahead.
The examiner asks a couple, 3 or 4 questions in same theme, and the only one topic, right? I don't know much about that.
Yeah, so 4 questions, one topic, 4 questions, then let's move on to talk about another topic, 4 questions, and then a third topic, 4 questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
if you keep going long answers, then the examiner will interrupt you. Not because you've done something wrong, but because they want to ask you more questions.
Okay.
Also, if you try to memorize answers, it doesn't work. Okay, so memorizing answers does not work. You have to demonstrate some flexibility in the way that you answer, right? So the topic, it's good to talk about your hometown because you will be, the likelihood is that first topic in part 1 is either going to be about your job or your studies, or it's going to be about your home or your hometown. So you will have to likely talk about these things. And actually, these things can be part of an answer for lots of different questions, right? So, if somebody asks you about your favorite restaurant, you can talk about restaurants in Osaka, right? If somebody asks you what you do in your free time, you talk about what people do in Osaka, right? So all of these things are useful. But if you try to memorize an answer, the examiner will interrupt you right away and ask you another question
Okay.
because they can tell when you've answered with a memorized answer.
Uh,
So, and it's difficult to predict the topics. You could get a lot of different topics that aren't on this list.
can be predicted.
So it's also good to practice responding to questions that you have never thought about, right? And in IELTS, it's okay to say, that's a good question. I never thought about that before, right? And then you can give yourself time to think about what you're going to say. But that was a good answer, and it didn't sound like you had memorized it or you were reading it, so that's okay. And again, when you practice answering different kinds of questions about your hometown, you'll realize that you can use this information that you've been practicing in other ways, right? You can be flexible with it and present it as an answer to a different question, right? So you've just talked about shopping in Osaka, right? And maybe you get a question about about shopping in general, and you can use this information for that question. So let me ask you the second question here on your list. Where do you live now?
I live in the Yokosuka city. Yokosuka is known for its military history, and there is also a Japan Navy and the U.S. Navy base, and so it also boasts a beautiful coastline and scenic hills, and offering various natural environment.
How often do you go out with your family?
I work full time on weekdays, and so I only go out with my family on only weekends, and we often go to a nearby shopping mall for lunch and to buy household items.
When was the last time you went out with your friends?
That was last week. Last week I attended the wedding of my friend, my high school classmate, and I went out for dinner afterwards. And since graduating from my school, we haven't seen each other much.
How well do you know your neighbors?
I don't know much about my neighbors. The only time I've encountered them was by chance in the hall when they are leaving.
Did you ever work in a group at school?
During my school days, I involved in the team sports. In high school, I was part of the rhythmic gymnastics team, and in college, I belonged to a rowing team.
Okay, when you pronounce college, try to pronounce that L sound.
College.
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 Eh.
College. College.
Right.
In college.
What's the best present you've ever received? The best gift?
I have received various gifts over the years, but if I had to pick one, it would be the letter from my daughter this year. She drew a line with the red crayon and the handprint in pink. I always carry the letter with me.
What sort of food do you like to eat?
I love sushi. I especially love the yellowtail, which is also my wife's favorite. And every 2 or 3 months, we treat ourselves to a sushi at the fancy restaurant.
So when you say months, you have to stick your tongue
Month,
out. Months.
month,
Months.
month,
Yeah. So
month.
the way you pronounce it was months is no months.
Month. Month. Okay,
Months.
month.
Yeah.
Month.
Okay, that's good. Do you know how to cook?
Uh,
Are you a
I
good cook?
do. I'm not a good. I but I'm not a good, but I cook almost every day. I cook my own lunch weekdays, and on weekends I sometimes uh, I make a lunch for my wife. But I think I always think my wife's cooking is even better.
You think it's important to know how to cook?
Uh, I uh, I think it's important to cook, but these days there are a lot of called freeze the foods. So so I can buy uh, I can get those things everywhere.
Do you think people in your country have enough free time?
Um, I don't think so. In Japan, issues like working long working hours and overtime and that low rate of taking paid leave uh, have been addressed as a problem.
What do people usually do in their free time in your country?
Uh, it depends on person, but uh, younger people like me uh, uh, go out go out for lunch or dinner with their friends and um, so some people go to a movie theater and and or others go traveling.
What's your favorite national holiday?
Uh, I don't I don't have a specific one. In Japan, a national holiday is days off, um, and so it doesn't matter which, which national holiday is it.
Do you prefer traveling abroad or in your home country?
Uh, I love traveling abroad. I visited the more than 10 countries around the world. Uh, Not only in Asia but also in Europe and the Middle East, both for work and leisure.
Where would you like to go for your next holiday?
Um, where is it? I I'm planning to go Hawaii with my family. Uh, so I've ever visited there, but my wife's never have visited the overseas. I'm looking forward to the
What
looking
type
forward
of
to it.
transport? What type of transport do you often use?
I often use bus and trains, buses and trains. I live in an area with easy access public transportation. So I don't own a car. There is okay.
Do you like shopping?
I'm not the big fan of shopping. I'm a frequent mover. Um, uh, Due to work, about 1 to 2 years, every 1 to 2 years, having too much stuff makes moving quite a hassle.
Have you ever bought anything online?
Uh, yes, I usually buy household items and foods online, but uh, when I get a new my clothes, I go to my go to small shop.
What kind of clothes do you usually wear?
Uh, I usually commute to work by running, so my everyday style is pretty casual with a t-shirt, a short, and running shoes.
When was the last time you went to a street market?
Uh, the last time I went to the street market was during my trip to Taiwan. Uh, was 5 years ago. While traveling, I had all my meals at the street markets.
Why do you think some people prefer to shop at a supermarket?
Uh, s- can I? Could you say that again?
Why do you
Uh,
think some people prefer to shop at a supermarket?
a supermarket. I think supermarket is pretty convenient. They have a lot of various things from the foods to household items. To, so people to go don't need to go get those things go everywhere. Just one place.
Do you prefer fashionable or comfortable shoes?
I prefer comfortable shoes. Uh, every morning I go for a stroll with my daughter before going to work, and then I commute by running.
How often do you have your hair cut?
Um, I go for a haircut every 3 weeks to, to keep a fade. So um, oh, Evan, yep, okay.
What kind of bag do you usually carry?
Uh, I usually use a backpack. So for my commute, my backpack is incredibly sturdy, so making it convenient even on rainy days.
What kinds of bags do people use for different purposes?
Um, um, some people say for commuting, use a backpack or briefcase. So it's good for carrying papers or something. But on the other hand, on weekends, they go out with and dressing. So it is it is good. It is good. No, a tote bag or body bag is better for day out on weekends.
Is taking photos a popular activity in your country?
Yes, taking photos is a popular activity in Japan. Japan offers beautiful natural landscapes and like sea and mountains, and also historic cityscapes a lot.
What do you usually do with your photos after you take them?
Uh, I I don't take the photos much, but my wife takes a picture of my daughters. So my photos, photos daughters. Sorry. Uh, we send my send their grandparents, and and they were happy to see my see their grand granddaughter.
Thank you. That's all of our questions today. So I think you're doing well there.
Yeah.
So you noticed that I asked you a few questions that were not on the list. And I think you did well. You were able to answer those questions. You had some good information. When I asked you about the different kinds of bags, you were able to talk about
Mhm.
the backpack and the briefcase and the tote bag. So you had a range of vocabulary there. And this is what the
Mhm.
questions are going to be trying to see, is whether you have a range of vocabulary, whether you can use
Right.
appropriate grammar structures to talk about different times, the past, compare
Mhm.
the past and the present, talk about the
Oh.
future, things like
Oh.
that. So
Mm.
so I just wanted to test and see, you had said in the beginning that you didn't think you had the ability to answer questions,
Uh,
which you haven't prepared. But I don't think that's the case. I
yeah.
think you have the ability. You just need to practice
All right. Thank you.
using your abilities a
Mhm.
little bit more. So, I think it's a good idea to take mock tests. That's what I usually
Mhm.
do with students who are preparing for IELTS, because there's part
Mhm.
one, as we've practiced today. Again, it's useful to
Mhm.
practice the three topics with 4 questions each, and a range of different
Okay.
topics each time. Part
Mhm.
two has got its own challenges.
Mhm.
As you got to keep talking for 2 minutes, and it helps to practice taking the notes and use those notes and use the topic card to help you to keep going.
Mhm.
And then part three, as you probably know, that the questions are related to the topic in part two, but they're less
Mhm.
about
Got it.
personal experience and more about society and people in general. You get some questions that are
Mhm.
a little bit more challenging, asking your opinion, support your opinion,
Mhm.
and evaluate other people's ideas, speculate about the future, what might happen in the future. So I think it's
Mhm.
useful to do mock speaking tests, and to be honest, that's the most of the stuff that I do on Cambly is to give mock speaking tests for IELTS. And again, I would
Um.
normally take notes along the way. We discuss the
Mhm.
notes, give you a score, give you some guidance for improvement. So if you'd like to book another session, I'd be delighted to help you in your preparation in the future.
Okay, I'll take a lesson with mock part or mock test.